In today's video, I wanted to share the truth about buying raw land. The goal of this video is to get you more comfortable with the risks of buying raw land so that you can make an informed decision about whether buying raw land is right for you or whether you should just go ahead and purchase a property that has a home on it. So as you want to grow as a real estate investor and there are fewer and fewer homes to buy, and that's because of the supply and demand issue that we've seen over the last 10 years, and frankly, the interest rates being as high as they are, it can be tough to find an actual home that you could buy as an investment, and it could actually be easier to buy raw land. But there are some inherent risks with buying raw land that I think a lot of people are not aware of. So I'm going to go over two big ones and then the surprising reality about buying raw land so that you can then feel comfortable moving forward. So let's get into it. The first point I want to make is that buying raw land is a completely different game than buying a traditional property. One of the reasons that it's completely different is because the type of disclosure that a seller has to make to a buyer about raw land can be different than compared to an actual property, a home, a real piece of real property. They may not even have to disclose anything at all. And so therefore, it's really up to the buyer to perform what is called the due diligence phase. And this is really the time in between when you put an offer to purchase land and when that sale is final, where you do all of the homework. You check to make sure that the property is going to be viable for you in three specific ways that I'm actually going to get into next. So because the seller doesn't have to disclose as much information or even the same type of information, it's really up to you to make sure that the property is going to work for your intended purposes. And there are really three major types of risks. So that's the second point. The first type of risk in buying raw land is zoning. So every piece of property in the United States will exist in what is called a zone, and that will tell you the types of activities that can and cannot happen on a piece of land in a particular zone. For example, the agricultural zone is usually intended for things like farms and other agricultural activities, versus like a commercial zone where businesses can exist, and then there's residential where it is meant to house homes. So the first thing you need to make sure is the land that you want to buy in the proper zone for your intended use. If you want to buy a single family home, can you build that there? If you want to buy unique homes like tiny homes or cabins, can you put that there? Can you build more than one home on the piece of property, or do you have to subdivide? These are all the types of questions that go into zoning. So you'll want to make sure that you'll be able to abide by the zoning regulations with your intended project. The second type of risk is utilities. Now, usually raw land does not have things like sewer, water, electricity, and roads, and you'll have to bring those things in, and you'll have to make sure that the property can support that. For example, does the city or county serve that area in terms of the electricity and the water? And if not, what are your alternative sources? So if you don't have access to city or county water, can you dig a well? And at the same time, if the city or county doesn't provide sewage service, can you install a septic tank? And that's going to require the test of an engineer. It's called a perk test, and they're going to look to see if the soil type will support a septic tank. Then there are things like roads. Can you install a road that is going to be wide enough according to the city or the county's local laws and regulations? Is the land flat enough to support roads, or is it going to cause erosion? All of these questions are ones that you'll have to find answers to when you're in your due diligence phase, because if you cannot bring utilities to your property, then that may impede you from being able to start your project. that may keep you from being able to even do your project in the first place. So it's incredibly important that you find out the status of the utilities. The third type of risk when it comes to raw land is what's called environmental risk. And what this means is, are there environmental factors such as endangered species, floodplains, restricted soils, anything like that that can keep you from being able to build in the first place. Now, usually your local county or city is going to have a database where they contain this information. You can pretty easily look it up online. However, there might be some things that you'll have to check with the state on. So it is a very good idea to meet with your county to ensure that there are no environmental risks that will make it impossible for you to build on your land. And you'll want to ask them where you can find any relevant information within the county as well as with the state. Now, despite all of the risks that I just laid out, buying raw land could still be a great idea because you can often get a pretty sizable property for a low price, meaning for 5 acres, if you have 5 acres and a home on it versus 5 acres of raw land, usually the 5 acres of raw land is going to be much less expensive. And that's because you're gonna have to put the money into it to be able to build on it. So you can get a better deal buying raw land. The other reason why buying raw land may still be a great idea for you is because there's gonna be far less competition to buy it. Because frankly, people are usually just too afraid of the risks to buy raw land, so they'll just buy a home. But if you have the right team, and I have done a video right here that describes all of the team members that you need and how to find them and the right questions to ask. If you have the right team, you can get a great piece of property at a great deal. And in fact, that's the process I'm in right now. So on this channel, I'll be taking you along on that journey. All of my links are down below if you want to work with me, or if you want to become an Airbnb host, you can use my referral codes. To furnish and decorate your Airbnb like a pro, also check out the description box down below for links to all of the products that I recommend. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Bye-bye.